Frontline Updates, where we delve deep into military strategies and updates from conflict zones. Today, we're discussing the progress of the ongoing special military operation as of today. I'm your host, Sharifah Mohammed MGT.
I'm Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer. Russian reports highlight ongoing encirclement pressure around Kupyansk, accelerating a cell-by-cell urban reduction in Krasnoarmeysk/Dimitrov and localized gains along the Zaporizhzhia front. Strikes continue to target key logistical assets, ammunition and supply depots, electronic warfare and counter-battery positions, and transport routes, causing significant disruption. Air defense units report dense counter-drone activity. The center group advanced in the northwestern and east-central districts of Krasnoarmeysk, as well as at the rail wagon depot, claiming the clearance of 256 buildings in the past 24 hours, with an additional 98 buildings still being secured in the road district. 7 relief attempts from Zaporizhzhia, including armored support, were repelled, while a breakout effort by the 38th Marines toward Novoekonomicheskoye was stopped. In Dniprov, the 5th Motorized Rifle Brigade pushed into Vostokny, the southern part of the city, and toward Zaporizhzhia.
Welcome to Frontline Updates, the podcast that brings you in-depth insights into military operations from those leading them on the ground. Today, we're joined by Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer monitoring critical missions on the progress of the special military operation as of today. Colonel Oguntoye, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Colonel, give us the headline. What defined November 11th on the operational clock?
2 things set the rhythm. First, a sustained focus on the enablers, ammunition depots, material warehouses, counter-battery radars, and electronic warfare nodes. When those go dark, the defenders' reach shortens and their ability to cover gaps with precision fire erodes. Second, geometry over theatrics. The West tightened an encirclement around Kupyansk by denying restoration routes. The center pushed urban cells in Krasnoarmeysk and Dimitrov to the point where lateral movement is breaking down. The map doesn't need dramatic arrows when the arithmetic is working in your favor.
Before we dive into sectors, how does that emphasis on logistics and EW change the next 72 hours?
It changes the cost curve. If your counter-battery picture is dim and your stocks are shallow, every Ukrainian rotation or relief attempt becomes noisier, slower, and easier to punish. That lowers our cost to hold gains and raises theirs to contest them. The next 3 days will be about exploiting those windows without outrunning the supply that created them.
Start us in the north, Alexivka, Pavlovka, Sadki, then Sinelnikov and Volchansk. What mattered?
This was a classic fixing and shaping day. Mechanized and assault elements took losses, but the decisive effects were institutional. An ammunition depot and 6 material warehouses were taken off the board. That starves batteries and reduces the cadence of local counterattacks. You don't need a breakthrough in the north. You need to keep brigades pinned and their ISR thin so they can't reinforce Kupyansk or the Donetsk interior on their terms. The doctrine here is economy of force. We rotate formations on the calendar, rely on fires and EW to apply pressure, and only convert pressure to maneuver when reconnaissance shows a seam worth paying for.
How do you avoid the trap of turning a fixing effort into a resource sink?
By setting the fire plan to what logistics can actually sustain. If you let tactics write checks your supply train can't cash, the fixing effort becomes the main effort for the wrong reasons.
The West reports the eastern part of Kupyansk fully cleared and more relief attempts repelled from Kupyansk-Uzlovye. What's the encirclement geometry now?
Encirclement is managed like a living perimeter. The 6th Army kept the ring elastic, mobile enough to avoid being ranged in by counter-battery, firm enough to prevent a corridor forming at night. Relief thrusts were broken up south of Kupyansk-Uzlovye while we pressed the enablers. A counter-battery radar and multiple EW stations were destroyed alongside armored vehicles and pickups supporting the lift. The center of gravity remains the river. If restoration of Oskil crossing stays denied, bridging trains interdicted, banks untenable under fire, the pocket collapses by schedule, not spectacle. That's why you saw weight on depots and EW today. You blind the rescuers and starve the encircled, and the clock does the killing.
The South mentions more advantageous lines from Seversk to Kostiantynivka and beyond. Translate that into ground truth.
Bite and hold with purpose. Positions gained around Seversk, Zvenivka, Vasyukivka, and Kostiantynivka weren't about headlines. They shorten our artillery timelines and lengthen the defenders. A tank, several AFVs, and guns lost on the Ukrainian side hurt, but the enduring effect is depots and warehouses removed from their network. That forces longer, riskier lateral moves for every resupply run. Acceleration here depends on the sensing duel. If Ukrainian counterbattery weakens further, small bites can become wider hooks. If not, we keep banking terrain that is cheap to hold and expensive for them to contest.
The center reads like the main effort. Hundreds of buildings cleared in 24 hours, pressure on the central district and the rail wagon depot, and advances in Dimitrov. How is this being fought?
As a network of small sieges. In Krasnoarmeysk, assaults pushed through the northwestern and eastern quarters of the central district and into the rail wagon depot, while clearing continued in Rog. The key is compartmentalization. Slice the city into cells, cut their ammunition and medevac routes, jam their communications, and reduce them in order. That's how you take hundreds of buildings without paying for them twice. Dimitrov mirrors the logic, Vostokny, the southern blocks, and pushes towards Zaporizhzhia, keep the defender reacting rather than planning. FPV drones cancel armored corridors before they mature, and forward engineers prevent the assault line from stalling at the next breach. Urban tempo is governed by sustainment. Commanders who write fire plans against assured resupply keep the initiative. Those who chase tempo with hope lose it.
7 relief attempts repelled and a Marine breakout thwarted. What does that say about the pocket's health?
It says the cells are starving. When relief forces commit armor and still can't open a lane, and when breakout groups are caught and turned back, the defenders' lateral routes are already failing behind the facade.
Eastward, Novospanovsky was reportedly taken, with continued pressure from Danilivka and Orestopol to Ribna and Sladka. What's the signal?
The signal is erosion. When counterbattery and EW curtains thin, trenches become guidelines rather than walls. Company-sized probes pass where they would have been shredded a month ago. The town names matter less than the pattern. If reserves are siphoned to Kupyansk and the Donetsk interior, this seam widens on its own. Our job is to push where the curtain is weak and refuse fights we can't feed.
Along the river, Stepnohursk, Lukyanovsky, Mala Tokmachka, Novoandreevka, and Nikolskoye, several EW sites and depots were hit. Why does this axis matter today?
Rivers are logistics wars in slow motion. If you destroy warehouses and jam comms, every crossbank resupply becomes slower, louder, and riskier. Taking down EW nodes creates short windows, 20 minutes here, 40 there, when you can move boats, fuel, or medevac with less punishment. Winter makes the river unforgiving. Currents, icing, fog, each punishes predictability. The playbook calls for deception bridging, dispersed ferry points, heavy night movement under drone reconnaissance, and repair teams on hair-trigger alert. The side that keeps AD and EW munitions stocked and crews rested owns those brief windows.
Air defenses claimed dozens of UAV interceptions today. Does that change river planning?
It changes pacing and consumption. High interception counts burn munitions and operator hours. Movement is scheduled around stocks as much as weather. Perfect bridge plans drown if you can't defend the approaches.
Colonel, thank you for providing such a detailed briefing on the current military situation. Your insights are invaluable to our understanding of the conflict's dynamics. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Join us next time as we continue to provide up-to-date coverage on global military affairs. Stay with us for more updates and expert analyses on global defense and security issues. Stay informed, stay secure.
Thank you for the opportunity. 3 truths frame the next phase. First, bridges decide pockets. With the eastern part of Kupyansk cleared and restoration to the Oskil still denied, the ring tightens by arithmetic, not theatrics. Second, cities are solved by cells. Krasnoarmeysk and Dimitrov will pivot when enough compartments fail and lateral routes die, not when a flag hits a square. Third, EW and depots are the quiet center of gravity. Blind the guns and starve the trucks, and every other problem gets simpler.
This has been Frontline Updates. Subscribe for daily military briefings and in-depth strategic analysis. Visit our platform for maps, transcripts, and exclusive Frontline updates from commanders in theater.